my whole approach to this, whether it's business or marketing or, obviously working with people is trying to simplify everything. I think as PTs, we tend to overcomplicate things. My approach from a strength and conditioning standpoint and even a rehab standpoint is stick to the basics and simple stuff and progressive overload and the basic movement patterns. But just like we talked about, the marketing message, for me, like people come to me for essentially three basic reasons, which is in that header, which is they can't play because they're in pain, they're losing distance or they want more distance, or they just want to ensure they can enjoy the game of golf forever. And so that's kind of one lesson I learned over the years is just trying to simplify and clean up your message, your approach. I've had so much more success business-wise, but also, with clients.
For many golfers, recovering from an injury or finding ways to improve their game often means turning to experts who truly understand the physical demands of the sport. Today, we're joined by JP Guidry, a physical therapist who's made it his mission to help golfers not only get back on the course, but play better than ever before. With over 16 years of experience and a practice that blends in-person care with virtual coaching, JP shares his journey of building a successful niche practice focused on golf rehab and fitness. We'll dive into the lessons he's learned along the way, the importance of keeping your marketing message simple, and how the pandemic reshaped his business for the better. Stay with us as we explore how physical therapists like JP are helping athletes achieve their goals and play the game they love, pain-free and for years to come. Don't move. This is PT Pintcast. JP, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me on, Jim. I'm really appreciative of you giving me this time to chat a little bit.
Let's go with background. I only know you from Twitter, right? That's where we sort of cross paths. And I think I see what you're doing on there, but I want to know, just give some people context. What do you get to do with your business? What's it called? Like, just give people like the back of the baseball card.
So again, my name's JP Guidry. My business is Guidry Golf and Sports. So as the name says, most of the clients I work with are golfers, either from a return to golf after injury or surgery standpoint, or just improving their fitness and performance on the golf course.
Awesome. And how long you been a PT, and then where are you geographically?
So I'm located in Mandeville, Louisiana, which is about 30 minutes north of New Orleans. I've been a PT. Let's see, I got to think about that now. I graduated in 2008, so 16, 17 years, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I've been, go ahead.
I was going to say, when someone says I got to think about it, it means it's over 10.
Yeah, definitely. You start having to do the math. So yeah, I've kind of been in all different realms of PT. For the most of my career, I've kind of worked for myself. I've had your typical, insurance-based outpatient clinic for 7 years. I've spent some time in neuro rehab, done some home health, still do a little home health here and there to kind of fill in gaps when needed. Yeah. But I've been doing what I'm doing now for, I would say, probably close to 7 or 8 years.
That's perfect. And how does it work? Are you brick and mortar now? Are you directly, completely remote? Is it a mix?
It's a mix. So I've kind of been around, a little bit more heavy one way versus the other over the years. When I started out, it was definitely mostly brick and mortar. And I just, I kind of dabbled in the online side of it, the virtual side of it, if you will. Obviously, COVID, this was a little bit before COVID when I kind of started all this. So COVID kind of forced my hand into diving into that side of it more, which ultimately ended up being a good thing. At the moment, I'm probably 50-50, maybe 60-40 in person versus online. It fluctuates around there throughout the years.
But the in-person, are you at a brick and mortar facility, or you go to them, or you meet at a facility, or?
I'm at a facility. So I have a kind of a gym that I work out of, essentially.
Nice. That's cool. And then how are you finding people? How are you finding your proper people? How does JP find his people? What are the different ways that you get connected so you can actually help people, hit it straight or longer, as you say on Twitter?
So really, good old fashioned word of mouth still, is a good source for me. I've been in the area I've spent a couple years away and I just actually recently moved back. But I've been in the area I've been in for probably 12, 13 years. So, I've got a somewhat of a decent reputation as far as what I do here. Relationships with the golf pros locally, they're a decent referral source for me. I still kind of have some relationships with the orthos from my clinic years that, kind of know me as a golf guy. So if they get golfers have a hip replacement, knee replacement, or just are going to them complaining or whatever, I want to get back on the golf course, they tend to reach out to me. So in person is kind of those different modes. Social media is probably the biggest driver for my online, obviously just being able to reach more people outside of my geographical area. And I'm try to be active on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, just kind of depending on where the audience is and where the response is, which always tends to fluctuate.
Sure.
I still don't understand the deep down of the algorithms and all that. I just kind of go with the flow on that part of it. But, that's probably my
JP,
biggest marketing tool for the online side.
JP, none of us really understand what we're doing on there. We just act like it. I'll say a lot of your posts and a lot of things that you share, you're short, sweet, and to the point, and you talk to a lot of emotion. I don't know if this is specific or not, but it was easier for me to see because I play a little bit of golf. I'm all right with it, but you don't talk about physical therapy. You don't, not at first anyway, I should say. You talk about wanting to be able to hit it longer, wanting to be able to play without pain, or want to be able to play 2 rounds back to back without an issue. And that skips to what I think a lot of people get confused on or they get screwed up on is they want to talk about the how. You get right to the what and the why. And was that intentional? Did someone teach you that, or you just learned by doing?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's definitely a learning process to that, and when I started out, kind of, especially on the online side, I joined under Frank Benedetto and his Honey
Yeah,
Badger product group. So whoever's familiar with him, I mean, he kind of basically sped things up for me in learning how to market and put together this online side of this business and kind of attack the social media stuff. And obviously, part of that was learning how to speak to people in a way that got their attention and what mattered. Because the
yeah,
reality is, I mean, you still got to get their attention, and then once you get their
sure,
attention, you can kind of dive a little deeper into the other side of that. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean, definitely there's a calculated, thing behind all that. But I am a golfer, so like I understand, my love for being on the course and the things that I want to improve on the course and the frustrations of I wasn't able to play because of pain or injury. And so,
right,
there is kind of that personal side of that allows me to
sure.
kind of talk the language, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can tell you've paid attention. I'll bring it up for the people watching the video, but like even just looking at your Twitter header, right? You got your name on there, but then it says hit bombs, play without pain, play forever. And if you're a golfer and those aren't issues for you, I don't know what kind of golfer you are because they've all been an issue for everybody, right? You want to hit it longer, you
Correct.
want to play a lot, want to play without pain, whatever. So it looks like a lot of the things that you write are written pretty intentionally. And the funny part is, it's like anything. If you use the right words, you just got to you get to use less words. It almost looks effortless, right? I mean, again, that header, hit bombs, play without pain, play forever. And if you're like, got it, okay, step closer. Now you can say things like, hey, this is my online course or my online way to work with me that we get you more distance, less pain. So it sounds like you're speaking directly to the perfect person, and that's simple but not easy. So a lot of people will say, like, I did PT and it failed. And then of course PT's leaning in and they go, well, who did you do it with? Maybe it wasn't right. And a lot of times I'll see people say, well, I did online, I did social media, it didn't work. And I'll go, hang on a second, because like JP over here is using 6 words that say more than your 60 words. And that's actually better because, as you just said it, it's about getting people's attention first.
Correct. And obviously we all know that attention span is getting shorter and shorter, especially on social media. So, y- your knowledge and the deep down of all that doesn't really matter if no one's there to kind of hear it. So,
Correct.
which again, that all goes back to a lot of the basics that I learned working with Frank. And I mean, I give a lot of credit to that experience. And I think, speaking to clinicians starting out, like I do always advise, like find someone like that you can learn on. It really
Yeah.
sped up that process for me instead of just going out and kind of making those mistakes and having to learn from that, which still happen,
Hire a
but
coach,
yeah, it's
hire a
it's a
pro,
worthwhile
right? And
investment for sure.
Yeah, and I'll say this, man. It's not like you got, as a golfer, right? You want to talk golf. It's like, hey, listen, I'm going to take some lessons. Doesn't mean you got to be tied to that person forever. I think a lot of people are like, well, what's this relationship supposed to look like? Is this like an ongoing indefinitely? How many relationships you've been in that's ongoing indefinite forever, right? So even being able to jump in and learn a couple things, you can take a couple of those different shots or those lessons and you can put it toward your game. You can do that in your professional career as well. In fact, I think we'd agree you kind of have to.
Yeah, I believe so. And early in my career, I probably fought that. Especially when I kind of started out with my kind of brick and mortar clinic, and you know, I've probably made a lot more mistakes than I should have over the beginning of that. And I guess that's like anything you do when you start out. But I learned pretty quickly. You know, I didn't know it all. I had pretty limited business knowledge and marketing knowledge, and so it's like I gotta find somebody that knows what they're doing with this and quit messing around with this. So I think
Yeah.
I definitely think that's like I said, that's always the first piece of advice I give if anybody says, "Hey, I want to go out on my own. I want to start my own PT clinic or online or whatever." It's like find somebody that you trust to work with as a coach to help you through those early on mistakes.
Yeah. Look for the person who's been there, done that, or at
Yeah.
least looks like they know what they're talking about, right? And then ask good questions. How about some mistakes? Are there any specific mistakes? Like if someone was looking at what you're doing now is like, okay, I'm gonna do that too. Is there a landmine you might help them avoid that we haven't talked about yet that could save them a lot of grief and money and time?
Hey, where are you going with your PT career? That's not rhetorical. I want to know. Would you like to embark on an extraordinary patient care adventure? That's what they call it. Some people might call it travel therapy. Find out more at jacksontherapy.com. This is perfect for physical therapists who are eager to make their mark. Discover where your skills can take you at jacksontherapy.com with Jackson Therapy Partners. And here's a question for you. You frustrated with your EMR? Feel like it should do more, be easier? Yeah. Take the next step. Maybe try something new. How about an EMR that's all in one? Seamless integrations of patient portals, marketing automations, and billing, all at an unbeatable value. Plus, switching over is a breeze. See what you can do with MW Therapy and their all-in-one EMR at mwtherapy.com. And how would you like to boost your bottom line and help more people? You can do both of those things without having to work more. Smarter, not harder, kids. Boost your clinic's revenue by $290 per patient per quarter by adding remote therapeutic monitoring. You've heard about it, but you're like, I don't know where to get started. Is it complicated? Well, what if you knew where to get started and it wasn't complicated? That's what Physiotech is here for. Kickstart your RTM at physiotech.ca. That's physiotech.ca right now with Physiotech.
Well, definitely, like going back to kind of that marketing message, I spent a lot of time early in my career trying to, get overly scientific and overly deep into injuries and, muscles and whatever, kind of spout my knowledge out there that I, trying to prove how smart I was. And it was probably over the patient's heads. Most of them don't care about that.
Sure.
It's, hey, I'm hurting. I want to get back to this. How can you help me do that? So, I mean, that's probably the biggest mistakes I made on that side of things, trying to go at it on my own. Understanding kind of the sales process of talking to people, especially, not dealing with insurance. And that's a totally different conversation, and having to kind of talk through
Yeah.
that of people that, come to PT, they assume like, all right, I want to use my insurance, and trying to show them that, this is why I think this avenue is better for you, and it may not be better for them. So understanding, well, hey, look, I like to build a community around me of people that I have. Some people I might say, hey, look, go see, Joe down the street. He does great work. He'll take your insurance. And then maybe when you're ready to move past that acute stage, we can work together. So
Yeah.
having those options, being able to build a community around you, not being afraid of like, not everybody's got to be your competition, even if they do
Sure.
what you do. So, understanding like we're here to help people, and I might not always be the best person for that as well.
Let's say you
It
are.
tends to
Let's say
come
you're
back
working.
to you. Go
Right.
ahead.
Agreed. Let's say you are. Let's say you're working with someone. And again, they jump on, and let's say they're like a specific like golf client, right? This is somebody who wants to hit bombs, play every day, and play without pain. And this is something maybe we're not taught formally in PT school, which is that like customer retention. How do you go about, do you do like outreach? Like let's say you and I are working together and I start hitting bombs and hitting it straight. I'm like, hey, I'm back. We're good. I'll call you if I need you. Practical. Do you reach out? Do you keep a list? Do you hit people with, hey, listen, it's been a while at 6 months or something like that? Or what do you do that maybe might be overlooked because it's simple, right? But simple works.
Yeah, so like while they're active clients, obviously I'm trying to keep that communication open and trying to stay ahead of that point of when they're done. So touching base. All right, what are next goals? Hey, we're getting close to reaching this goal. Do you have any new goals that you'd like to work with? And look, that may not always be the case. Hey, I think you're ready to go out on your own, but now they're going to go into this other list where it's 3 months from now, 6 months from now, whatever that may be. It's just a simple reach. Hey, how things going? Are you still staying on track? How you feeling? And so I probably get, a quarter of my business every year is from old clients that, fell off the wagon or developed a new pain or whatever. It happens, there's a reality of dealing with human beings. And so just keeping that line of communication open. And again, this was probably a mistake I made early on. It was kind of like, and I think in PTs, we view this like, all right, they're discharged, they're done type of model versus like, hey, I kind of view them, you're always a patient, you're always a client, whether you're actively paying me. And, I want to ensure that you're doing well. And if you're not, I want to be able to help you get back on track or help you deal with whatever new issue pops up. And so kind of always being fresh in their mind with whatever outreach that top of mind all the time. And that way where you may not even have to reach out right then and right time, but they think, all right, my back's starting to bother me. I'm going to reach out to JP and see if he can help me out with that.
Yeah. And that's a big difference, right? And I think I heard that number right. You said about 25% of your business every year is from people you've reactivated, right? That'd be fancy talk for like reactivation campaign.
Correct, yeah.
There's a big difference between 75 and 100.
Yeah. 100%. So it's simple. I mean, it's simple little, I've got automations built and all that side of the business stuff, but look, if I got 20 minutes, I might go pull out a list of old clients and send them each an individual email. Hey, how's it going? Golf season's around the corner. Just want to make sure you're sticking to it. Or it might even have nothing to do with what we work together for. How's your family? How's whatever, just talking to them, reaching out and making sure, they're okay. And if they may not need you at that point, but it's just another piece of communication that keeps that relationship going, which, I think that's kind of the key word is that relationship part where it's not like a finite end to that just because I might be done helping them at this point in time. Like I want to keep that relationship going, even if it never leads to anything else.
Well said. How about advice for other PTs? What would you give for other physical therapists looking to start a similar model? I see you've got TPI after your name, which says like, hey, I took it upon myself to go get, advanced certification with Titleist Performance Institute. What's some other things that people could do if they're like, this is who I want to serve, but this is a non-traditional model, right? Like a lot of times these are people who are like yourself going out on your own, figuring it out. What else could you give to somebody? Because I hear these questions a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, specifically for the golf world, I mean, having that TPI certification, it gets your foot in a lot of doors. Golf coaches, swing coaches, even golfers now are well versed on that enough that they're kind of looking for those letters. If you say, hey, I'm fitness, health, PT, whatever, I work with golfers. Okay, the first question I always get is, are you TPI certified? So, it helps get your foot in a lot of doors and it just kind of gives you some credibility there. So obviously whatever realm you might be diving into, if there's equivalent to that, I think that's a beneficial thing to have. I think thinking outside of the box, continuing education wise, like I've spent a lot of my continuing education over the last, 10 years, more in the strength and conditioning world, more in kind of the business world and marketing world and all that stuff. So kind of getting out of just the traditional PT stuff. If you want to get more out of the traditional PT model, I think you kind of have to look at your education that way. And, I look at it as like, I'm serving and helping people. I want to have as much knowledge as I can specific to that population that I want to help and serve, and be able to kind of help and serve as many of those people as possible. So, if you look at kind of the licensure aspect of it, there's obviously a lot of gray areas there with, because I work with I work with people outside the state that I'm licensed. And I've got my CSCS. I've kind of work under that umbrella more so when I'm working with those people. And here's what I can help you do. Here's what I can't do. But I look at it as, look, you can't take away my knowledge. I'm not diagnosing.
Right.
I'm not treating you medically. I'm just helping you, reach a goal. So I think,
Right.
look, depending on how risk averse you are with that area of things, like, I view it as, look, I think I have a pretty clear understanding of like what I can and can't do under that licensure, and outside of it. And, I'm pretty comfortable with being able to help people with my knowledge, in those ways. And then obviously, look, if they need more than that, all right, you need to go find a PT in your area, or let me help you find
Right.
someone in that area that can do some hands-on stuff or grounding on your, whatever it may be. Or if you need more higher level diagnosis and things like, then it's understanding, okay, again, when you need to refer out in those situations.
I've asked you a few questions about problems. Let's go the other end. What's something you've been super proud of, or something you've overcome? Is the rewarding part of your journey in this particular thing that you've created? Your own niche. What's something that comes to mind that you're like, hey, yeah, if I sit back there and think about it, look at this. I'm proud of this.
Well, I definitely think, look, probably for a lot of people, like just being able to survive the COVID experience with that. I started my Guidry Golf and Sport in 2018, and I started out of a country club, and then I was working out of a country club in another gym, kind of just seeing clients out of there, and then doing a little bit of the online. And COVID hit, and of course, all of that shut down overnight. And so, being able to kind of just tread the water, and like that forced my decision to say, hey, look, I'm going to open up my own space and have control over everything, and still follow under the guidelines, but be able to help people, and obviously develop that online side. Because there was
Yeah.
plenty of days where I said, just like, all right, I mean, there was a time where I was studying to take insurance exams and sell insurance, like not knowing what I was going to do. And I just, look, I love doing this. And I said, I'm going to, do everything I can to stay in this field, and keep this business going. And here I am, 4 years later, 3 or 4 years later, continuing along. So I would say, that's probably, for me, specific to this experience, that's probably the biggest, thing I've had to overcome.
Love it. Last thing we do on the show, JP, is the parting shot. If you were to summarize one idea or mic drop moment, soapbox statement that you'd want to share with other clinicians, what would it be?
So I think, like, my whole approach to this, whether it's business or marketing or, obviously working with people, is trying to simplify everything. I think we, as PTs, we tend to overcomplicate things. My approach from a strength and conditioning standpoint, and even a rehab standpoint, is stick to the basics, and simple stuff, and progressive overload, and the basic movement patterns. And, you can obviously use your intelligence and your creativity from there with individualized patients. But just like we talked about, the marketing message, for me, like, people come to me for essentially three basic reasons, which is in that header, which is they can't play because they're in pain, they're losing distance, or they want more distance, or they just want to ensure they can enjoy the game of golf forever. So, I try to keep my message to those three things. I'm not there to improve
Yeah.
their golf swing. I talk a lot about that. There's plenty of good swing coaches out there. I'm really there to help them reach one of those three goals, if not all three of those goals. And so that's kind of one lesson I learned over the years, is just trying to simplify and clean up your message, your approach. To me, I've had so much more success business wise, but also, with clients, with that approach.
Yeah. Smart. JP, appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this, and for sharing some insight along the way to help some other clinicians get there as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity.